Hey, what's up? This is the second in the series where I'm just reviewing different things that I observed while watching the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. As I mentioned in the first part of this, it's going to be part of my Trumptrain to MAGAland series, and it's a mini-series within that series where I'm going to be focusing on reviewing and talking about the different observations I had while watching the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention that ended the preceding weeks of me recording this one. Now, you don't have to listen to these in any particular order, and it seems like I'm working my way back. This is the Friday when I'm recording this part. I just recorded a previous part, which I guess is the first one in the series, but it's not really in order. But yeah, working my way back. So I just listened to the last day where Donald Trump gave his speech. Other people gave speeches as well. I had mentioned how there was something, his appearance, the orange skin, the tan, the spray tan, or I don't know what it is. Is it a spray? Is it some kind of lotion? What gives him that look, that tan? And it's clear to see because you can see even the change of the face. I've talked about this in makeup things as well, like talking about females who wear certain levels of makeup, where you can see this different tonals between the skin, and it's so clear. Like you can see that in the mirror. So I'm wondering why doesn't he see that? The hair, the way it is, there is something about that makes people go on with puerile insults towards him, like childish insults. And there is some aspect of this towards some of the people who dislike Trump. They go based on these appearance things, and these appearance things not necessarily just based on adult observations, but projecting certain things and behavioral patterns from childhood. And I talked about this in a separate video about popularity, how there is something about, not just a popular vote, there is something about the United States of America, the way people are socialized in school, that stays on to the rest of their lives. It kind of goes on. I was talking about how my school experience was a lot like this TV show called Popular, and then I realized like, hey, that might be the same for other people, but also for some other people, the schools necessarily weren't that way because our school was, okay. So regardless of that one, what I'm talking about in this video is his daughter, Ivanka Trump. There is something about her. Like when I just saw her walk out during the whole presentation, I gave this to the Republican National Convention 3 nights to 1. Because they just did a better job just presenting it. Even if it was nothing of the actual content, but this is a television program, you have a lot of people watching, it's about how you present certain things. And the way she came out walking, and this is something that I had thought of before, kind of not necessarily put my finger on it, but she is this rather tall, rather attractive, classically attractive female to a lot of people, the long blonde hair. She has a certain look about her, a certain way she carries herself. Even with Jared Kushner, you would say he kind of looks like some kind of T-1000 robot, like kind of cyborg type of thing. But there's such a proper way that they present and hold themselves that is part of being a public figure. But there is something that I think, I would say at least 5% of the people who have certain visceral dislike for Trump and his family, and these people comes in part from Ivanka's just appearance. I think with some people, it gives them flashbacks of being back in grade school, middle school, high school in the United States of America. There is this stereotypical fit, popular, blonde, mean girl type of look thing, and I think she embodies that some people are carrying on that anxiety. And for some people, those type of girls were actually responsible for making their life a lot worse. Like the whole high school environment is not that generally positive for people. Some of the socialization that goes on, the stratification, the different levels of the popularity and things like this, it gets to the point where there is an aspect of that and then Trump is kind of this jock guy, and this is his rich, wealthy, jock, preppy type daughter, and they project that, and then they take away what she's actually saying. They don't care what she says. Just her being her is enough for them to dislike. And that's why I'm connecting with that whole puerile thing, the puerile insults about Donald Trump's appearance. I don't think he personally cares that much about it. I don't think Ivanka really cares that much about people thinking like, oh, like you're just this tall blonde. Yeah, she is. She knows what she looks like. The same thing with Trump. He knows what he looks like. So, but with the people who are saying these things, why are they coming at it with these kind of negative things of childhood? Why can't they get past certain things in their life, certain observations in their life? And to me, that's why it seems to be more about other things that they're projecting onto these individuals from their lives. There's something here that a friend of mine posted in a private group that I'm in on some social media, and I'm just going to get some names and things out of it. But this, in general, the person said this is why the Democrats are losing, and then they said a very liberal friends of theirs in a major city in the United States of America moved to a county on the outskirts, some of the exurbs type of things. When you think of the United States of America, a lot of people think of the major cities, talking about Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, New York City, Washington, D.C. But with a lot of these places, yes, the main city center, you see the buildings and the monuments and things like that. People think of those. But these places, when you talk about the greater area, is a lot bigger, where the exurbs, where people actually live and then commute to these locations to do most of the things. So it's kind of like you look at New York City, people think of Manhattan. But then New York City itself is about 8 million people. But you look at the greater New York City area, greater New York City metro area that's in New Jersey, that's in Connecticut. It's called that tri-state area. The same thing when you talk about Washington, D.C., it's actually like the DMV area. There's like Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Those suburbs there kind of make part of DC. So there is that kind of thing. So this is the thing the person was talking about. And there's a lot of people who are now moving out of cities for various reasons. So anyway, they were talking about a friend said that she liked Ivanka's speech from the Republican National Convention. And of course, you might as well pause this if you haven't seen it and go watch these things for yourselves. That's a great thing about this. People can actually get this information instead of getting the things second, third, fourth hand through different media portals who give you their own spin and their own, oh, you're supposed to think this way about this thing, or we're going to give commentary, or even me, I'm giving you commentary about these things. Instead of listening to that commentary, you can listen to it for yourself. And an increasing number of people are actually getting to do that, to see the people, to hear the people as direct from the source. And then the people speaking themselves have their own spin on it. But that's different. That's some genuine, as organic a spin as possible. Okay, so here we go. So back to the reading, back to the thing the person wrote. So this person said, my very liberal friend in big city moved to a county in the exurbs and the outskirts, said on Facebook that she really liked Ivanka's speech. And people were, of course, all upset. I assume she wanted to start a fight. She posted this comment. She was pretty blue-pilled forever, but this year cracked her. Now, blue-pilled is that the blue pill, the red pill, it's taken from the whole thing in the Matrix where Morpheus was telling Neo, was being like, okay, you can take the blue pill and you'll get plugged back into the machine, and all this potential new information, you're not going to actually be able to, you're going to go back like nothing happened. Or you take the red pill and then you come into reality and you have to deal with the way things really are. That could be more confusing, could be more dangerous, but it's the red pill. It is reality. That is something, a meme that has kind of gone with it, take the red pill and things like this. So that's what they're talking about here. Okay, so this is what the person wrote. I'm going to be taking out some names and locations, so I'll just be saying like the letters of the names or something. Okay, so my only son got to play with a little boy yesterday for the first time since March. Because we're in Newport. My daughter Elle gets to sing in a choir again. My daughter A gets to dance again. M, another one of my children, is a child of deep faith, and she got to go to Mass on Sunday. My kids aren't crying anymore when we leave the house, because my car is no longer stopped by angry rioters bashing young fashion designers and local car wash owners' only meal tickets to the ground. No one in Newport is threatening to take a bat to my windshield and making my son fall into hysterics, as did the crowd we encountered alone in where they're from last month. I was in Manhattan on 9/11, and I'm proud of the FDNY, which is the Fire Department of New York City, and the NYPD, which is the New York Police Department. And most importantly, the Port Authority Police, who saved my life and many lives that day. I know that we all tried to do different things, which would have resulted in a very different outcome without their leadership. I will never stand against them, and I will never ever teach my 4 incredibly loving, aware, and kind daughters to get on their knees and apologize for who they are. I've worked hard my entire life and was never handed a dime. I make choices for all children of this planet, not my own. I'm standing outside alone fighting human trafficking. Literally the 7 of us were alone the past 2 days. I am deeply saddened by the candidate my party nominated to run this term. Let's agree to disagree. But if you're going to come at me, maybe ask a few questions first before pointing your discerning mommy and daddy fingers at me. Thanks. Okay, so with this one, I was talking about the appearance. I'm talking about the way people are treated. I'm talking about the things that are kind of framed, like, oh, this person is pro this person is against this. Donald Trump is against women. Donald Trump is hurting women in this way. This is a female, a concerned mother of daughters talking about how she likes the way Donald Trump has a relationship also with his daughter. That's part of it. She sees that and she doesn't consider that to be a creepy, icky thing. You see some people who are bringing up these puerile, again, childish level things, talking about, oh, look at the way Trump acts with his daughter. Oh, he said this thing about Ivanka. He was joking about some of those things. What's a father can't say my daughter is attractive? They can't say that anymore? If your parents didn't say that to you, then it's something else. Some people are not attractive. Maybe you're not. Not all babies are cute. This whole thing is just like all babies are cute. Some babies aren't cute. But maybe you had a different kind of relationship with your parents. People say, oh, look, I've seen different things of them posting, oh, look at Trump kissing Ivanka on the lips. Oh, he must really like his daughter this way. Well, there's pictures of Joe Biden kissing his granddaughters on their lips. Is that supposed to say something about Joe Biden? There's all these pictures of Joe Biden sniffing children, sniffing girls, touching people in different ways. Like, oh, that's just Uncle Joe. He's just from a different time. That's just the way he is. So there's some double standards being shown here. But here you see somebody who is a Democrat, very liberal, who's seeing other things in the world happening. This is not what Trump is saying. This is not, oh, this is a very dark thing, and then this is going to be another one and a separate one on this series. Oh, it's not like, oh, this is the dark world that Trump is talking about. It's so dark the way he's talking about these things. He's doing this fear-mongering thing. It's like, no, these people are living in the world and observing things on themselves, and then they go on and they get the actual source. They go to the actual source, listen to the people speak. I know very many people. You probably know very many people who are against Trump, who have yet to actually listen to a live speech of Trump. For me, that was one of the opening moments. That's part of why I'm making this channel, part of why I have this Trumptrain to MAGAland series, part of why I'm a fan of Trump, is from hearing that first time when they said, Donald Trump called Mexicans rapists. I was like, what? So I listened to the speech. I went and shock. I actually listened to the speech myself. The first time he said that line talking about the people coming across the border, they're not sending your best, and he's talking about people in the crowd like people like you, like who are great and things like this. And then he said some of them assault people and they do this, and then he said I'm sure some of them are good people. I listened to the whole thing, and then I was like, okay, where did he say it? Then I was like, wait. That line, that paragraph was what the news is covering. Certain news people are covering as him calling people this, as him saying things about that. And then from then on, my eyes were opened. The blue pill was gone. I kind of got red pilled on Trump by actually doing that, by actually going in and getting the source and seeing how things are taken out of context when it comes to him and how things are ignored when it comes to other people. At that time, I had some preconceived bias against him, being like, oh, Trump is just that brash guy from Apprentice that I don't really like too much. He has these shows, oh, he makes the buildings, he's all the gold this and gold that, and oh, that thing he was coming up with the Obama thing, like talking about the birtherism. But even birtherism, that even came out of Hillary Clinton's campaign in some way. Like Hillary Clinton, she started a few things that were just pushed onto Trump. Both the birtherism and also the fake news thing. Fake news was a term that had been used before, but Hillary Clinton is the one who repopularized it, and then that got pushed on to Donald Trump. So anyway, they're just things that happen with the appearances. Why are people going with these childhood level things? And that's because what happens in our childhood, what happens as we socialize as kids, and when you have this compulsory educational system where a lot of Americans have been put through this system where the state becomes their parents, they get some kind of reliance. The stratification, the caste levels of sorts of popularity and things like that, that is maintained. So I'm saying this is not all. I think maybe at most 5% of the people who dislike Ivanka Trump in particular are doing it in part due to this past history of her embodying this stereotypical white, brash, popular, snooty, preppy type of white female popular chick from school. That's some people. It's not all, it's some. But what do you think about her presentation, about the parts that she's played in his administration? Out of all his kids, I think she's done the most directly. And this is one of my question marks of some of the things that she was talking about in the speech. She is actually, I think she identifies as a Democrat. I don't know if she switched over. Let me double check. This is an article from The Hill, and it says here, Ivanka Trump changed her voter registration from Democrat to Republican in 2018. So, White House senior advisor Ivanka Trump told the New York Times this week that she officially switched her party affiliation from Democrat to Republican in 2018, shortly before the midterm elections. I am a proud Trump Republican, she told the Times. I believe he's broadened the reach of the Republican Party, which is really important to me. So this is the president's eldest daughter. So I guess she's also in position. It's not just because she's Ivanka, she's the eldest daughter. And this is one of the things where I was like, I think with her, with the leanings of Ivanka Trump, this might be something where he cares too much about what she's saying. And some of the things she was talking about, like the whole government-paid, taxpayer-funded leave for people at jobs. And that should be something that people decide in private things. So there's some aspects of the things that she's advocated for that I don't necessarily support, especially in the way they're funded, just more big government type of involvement things. But there's also other things that she seems to have championed and helped him on. Like, for example, when they're going to setting up programs and things where you can go out of the cathedral. You can find different ways to employment, more like skills-based employment, skills-based immigration, instead of just saying everybody needs to have these degrees and things like this. So that same education system, I think, that develops some of these people who have this carried on angst and dislike towards just the sheer appearance of Ivanka Trump, just the sheer boorishness of Donald Trump, who's kind of your stereotypical rich jock type of machismo type of male. So there's certain things about, I think, that Trump family that irk certain people who might have been in certain social strata. And for some of them might have good reasons. Some of them might have good reasons because some of the people in the appearance group that I think people can project Ivanka and Trump and that family to be in also were people who were occasionally bullied other people for not being in certain groups and things like that. Okay, so that's it for this one. I think that's it, kind of with the Ivanka thing. I'm trying to think if there was something else I wanted to add to this. Oh yeah, just another observation. Just the thing. Trump hates women, yet he puts Ivanka at such a high level in his thing. Kellyanne Conway just had to step down, decided to step down because there's issues with her child, supposedly is so angry and pissed off about her parents' situation, and her husband is a rhino, like Republican in name only, or never Trumper Republican, and they've been going at each other very vocally and very, very, very out in the open. And it's been bringing her angst. So I think Kellyanne Conway decided to step down, saying no more drama, less drama, more mama. And that's, I guess that's good. But it just sucks that this kind of environment to get in this kind of situation for these people. And Kellyanne Conway was a rather accomplished female with kids and the family like this. And then she came out and she was part of this massive campaign, yet she was being treated in a really negative way. You look at all these people say, oh, Trump hates women. But then he's like, he might like women too much. On one hand, he hates women. On the other hand, he likes women too much because he keeps going to too many women instead of just dedicating himself to one woman. So there are these aspects and things where it's just, come on now, people. Get out of this childhood thing. Come and let's have some adult conversations about some actual worthwhile topics and get beyond some of these possibly negative things that happened in our past and move on to the future. So talking about the future, there'll be more of these videos over these next 68 days. I'll try to get these done as soon as possible, but even if I don't do them as much, I think there's at least 5 or 6 more parts in specific from actual observations that I made while watching them, and there's going to be more things within that. You don't have to listen to them in order. They'll be coming out shortly. Till next time, I appreciate you taking your time to listen. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Ivanka Trump. Do you think she represents negative things about the United States of America? About white people, about the Trumps? She said she was an independent in 2016. Is she a good representative for the Jewish people? Because she did convert. That's the whole thing. Like, Jewish is like, there's a race, there's a religion, there's a culture, and things like that. So anyway, but Jared Kushner, her husband and also senior White House advisor, also confirmed that he had been a Republican at a recent campaign briefing, according to the Times. Said, I was not a Republican, he said. Now I'm a Republican. I think the Republican Party is growing now that people like me feel comfortable being a part of it. And yeah, so people have objections to both these people, to a lot of people, but I think this is just part of the example. Both with showing how they switched, because Trump is not necessarily your typical Republican, he's not your typical politician, and people had been wanting that change when Barack Obama came out as the change candidate. That was something people really wanted, but that was something that I was really suspicious about. He's been writing about it back, I think, in 2008. I was like, he's not going to change that much. But Trump actually has changed significant things, and I think that change is continuing. there's more and more people who hadn't actually heard him speak directly, just like in the past I hadn't heard him speak before just hearing what other people are saying. So it's going to get to the point where more and more people are going to hear him. This should be on a separate one. I'm going to talk about that topic in a separate one because there's some people who actually think the fact that people are hearing him more means they're going to vote for him less. When I'm like, no, that's the inverse. Because for most people have actually experienced, when people disliked him or heard about him saying something and then they actually went and listened to him, I think as much as possible, you hear people being like, wait, that's not exactly what he said, and give him more of a chance. Okay, so that's it for now. Hit that notification bell. There will be more content coming. I appreciate you taking your time. Goodbye.